I know that it says I'm live. I'm just going to check something really quick because I don't have somebody that mans all this stuff for me. Uh-huh. Let's see here. Just really quick checking things. Nope. Up. I'm live. It is Thursday. I'm normally here on Wednesday, but I am here this week. And this is Conscious Mind Tripping with me, Audrey Newmont. Thank you for joining me. Hello there, Mr. Newmont. First one on tonight. Ah, I'm back. I had my time in my solitude up in the sequoias, and it was amazing. So I'm going to talk a bit about that because there were a few things that were pretty interesting on that trip. And I want to start with announcements. So all of you know that we're at Newmont Center, and we have all these classes, groups, workshops that are going on, and we're just started with Nick's class. He has a Sentient Healing 101 class, and I'm telling you, if there's a part of you that has ever thought that you would like to be an energetic healer, or you want to just learn about that for your own body and for your own life, he just started it on Monday night. It's going to be live on Zoom, and it's also going to be in person. So it's not too late to jump in the class. It's I think a 2-year program. And by the end of it, you are going to be well qualified to do the kind of energy work that Nick does. So that is Monday nights at 7 o'clock. And then on Tuesday nights, Nick has his mainstream metaphysics, which he's taking a little bit of a break right now. And then usually I'm here on Wednesday. And coming up, we have Nick and Alexandra on the 22nd of this month. Nick will be channeling Merlin, Alexandra will be channeling Golden Arrow, and I think it is going to be another one of those phenomenal days because those days are always amazing. And then we have a psychic fair that's coming up in July. We have Nick and I doing our Focus on Success coming up. And Nick says he's back on the 18th with his podcast. So, no, with his podcast. So we have a lot going on at Newmont Center, and I think it's going to be just a great summer and then going into the fall. And also on the 21st, if you're in the area, that's a Friday night, it is the full moon, and we are having a full moon celebration at our house. So if you're in the area, contact me, and we're making it a bit of a party this time. And just so you're aware, it is a strawberry moon, which I have a sneaky feeling we'll be having some sort of strawberry desserts or something, because you got to have strawberries in the summer. At any rate, I think that's it for the announcements right now. So I wanted to start a little bit about what I do on a solitude trip. I shared just a few videos, but there's a whole bunch that I don't share. And the interesting thing is, it's not that exciting because there's a lot of the time where I'm just silent and I'm walking and hiking and hanging in my hammock, looking at the fire and just vegging and just downloading. So sometimes it's just not that exciting to talk about. Maybe sometimes people don't know how to make a fire in the woods, and putting that together can be a little interesting. And, what is it like to sleep in the tent? Because this time I did sleep. I bought a new one of those little dome tents, and it was super comfortable. I got an air mattress that fits in the back of my car. And I'm telling you, I'm like out for hours, and it's very relaxing. So this time I was in the sequoias, and I was right next to the river, which used to be empty. I mean, I've been going there for 30 years now, and there's been times where I have laid in that riverbed. This time it was raging. And so when you're sitting there or laying there or doing whatever, it's just that magical sound, and the weather was perfect. So the universe loves me. I had dental work done right before I went, and I had this tooth that needed a new crown on it. Well, before I left from my trip, the tooth came out, so they glued it back on until I could get my permanent. Then I'm the second day there on the trip, and that thing came out again. And my dentist was very clear with me. She said, and you guys know how much I love the dentist. Um, she was very clear with me. You have to have that in your mouth all the time. You can't take that out. I mean, I took it out to eat, but I had to pop that thing in there. So I have a bite guard that I wear at night. So I thought, all right, I'm going to put that thing in. I'm going to put my bite guard on. And so most of the time I had that bite guard in. And so on some of the videos, you can hear me lisping with my bite guard, which leads me to my funny story. I was sitting there by the fire, and this woman was setting up camp next to me. And I had been silent at this point for a while. And she came up and she started talking to me. And poor thing, we got into this conversation. And sometimes when I haven't talked a lot, I can talk. And we just started talking, and I'm lisping away. I think she thought I was a nut. So at a point, she's like, "Well, I'm going to leave, and I'm not going to hang out at your fire with you tonight. I'll see you tomorrow." So I see her again tomorrow, the next day, and we talk a little bit more. And it's like, again, I'm just like overly enthusiastic, I think, to be talking with somebody. And we were both very kind of cautious in our conversation. So, long story short, we never did hang out by the fire. And the morning that we're leaving, we get into this conversation. And you just never know what people think about you, right? Until they say it. This woman, we start talking, and we got a little on the political side. One thing led to another, and she ends up looking at me like with a look of surprise on her face. She goes, "Wow, you're really intelligent." You're really, you really know what you're talking about with some of this stuff. I think when she first met me, she's like, "Oh my God, what is this woman with her lisping going on in her over enthusiastic ways?" At any rate, we ended up sitting that last morning and talking so much that we both just barely got out of there on time. And we'll see if she ever contacts me. I haven't heard from her yet, but she's got my number. Hey, Kimberly, nice to have you in here along with Nick. So, the other part of the trip, they have all these boulders there. Well, the first night I was camping in this spot that I really shouldn't have picked. And the next morning I changed my reservation to the spot that was over by the river. And I was leaving, and I hit a boulder with my car. And it was like this bad noise. And there was a part of me where it's like, oh no. And normally I would have just been like upset about it and just probably would have called Nick and been like, I just hit my car and I did all this. And I looked at it, and it's like, I'm going to be able to drive with it. It's not like it put my car out of commission. It just made like this scrape along the passenger door area. So I was very proud of myself. I just was like, I'm just going to let it go, and it's going to get fixed. And I'm just not going to hold it in my mind. I'm not going to be upset about it. It's just one of those things. And there was this guy who was camping like alongside of me in the spot that I really wanted to have. And he, as I was leaving, goes, "Well, I hope that didn't really hurt your car too bad." It made a horrendous noise. I'm sure all the other campers were like, "Whoa." He's the only one that said something about it. Uh, so if you're in the area and you know somebody who is good at fixing things like that, I'm actually looking for somebody. I don't want to take it to the dealership because that'll probably be a fortune, and you know how that is. At any rate, so the trip was really, really good. And while I was on the trip, I had some things that came up that I wanted to share with you all. And Also, I got back from the trip and then I'm now over here at my daughter's house and I'm babysitting her dog Bear that you saw the picture of. Isn't he so cute? He is like a little snuggle bunny or a snuggle bear. He just is a love. He's the sweetest little dog. And he's got a funny little mohawk too. He's running around here somewhere. At any rate, so I've kind of extended my solitude to be here at my daughter's house. So you guys get a lot of my chatting tonight because you're there and I can talk with you. I'm also back at work, so I'm talking with my clients as well. But it's nice to be in a good amount of introspection and solitude. You know, I've been having some stuff in my own life that I've been working through and using the things that I do, which I want to get into a little bit here tonight. So I want to talk about therapy. I've been having people refer people to me, and it's very interesting what people think about therapy and the hesitation. And I was thinking about it and actually talking with Nick a little bit about it. It's very interesting where we're at in our society that it's like some people are like, oh yeah, I've got my therapist and they're so proud of it. And then there is a whole nother population that's like, ugh, going to a therapist means that you know, you've got problems or whatever, and it's not a good thing and it's not, you know, something that's going to look good for you. And there's a lot of people actually that have been sending couples to me. So it's very interesting. One or the other in the couple will call and, you know, they'll want some details. So I'll tell them this is how I work. And it's like, would you like to book? And they're like, no, I have to actually talk with my partner and see how we're going to work this out. And it's just fascinating what people actually in their own mind will think about when it comes to therapy. So I want to back this up a little bit. I want to talk about our center for a second. We, Nick and I are both hypnotherapists. And Nick, of course, is a metaphysician, and I'm a spiritual practitioner. And I come from a lot of science that I've studied over a lot of years. And so I put this into my own, let's just call it toolbox, and my own. I give my clients a workbook, and I literally will teach them how to do my version of different psychological tools and my version of different spiritual practices, and I put it into this little package that I do. But we also, at our center, we have all these different practitioners that work there. Like Nick and I do what we do. And then we have Dr. Stephen Palmer. He is a doctor of psychology, and he also is a spiritual practitioner. So when there is somebody that needs more of a psychologist, we'll ship them over to him. Then we have different people there that are various types of therapists, whether they're a LMFT, whether they're a shaman. We have people there that another hypnotherapist who is also a medical intuitive and a person that does EMDR. We have our holistic doctor that we refer people to. She's a bit of a therapist as well. And then there is our in-house acupuncturist who does functional medicine. And so between the people that actually work with us and the people that we refer to, we are able to really direct people to a full mind, body, and spirit approach to making life better. So the part that I think is important is there's so many of us out there that it's like, how do you know if you need to go to a therapist? It's a valid question. So I was thinking about this when I was on my trip. My daughter has arrived. You want to come and say hi while I'm on my little podcast here? No? Come here. Just pop your little head in here. Let's see if we can get her to say hi. Come here. This is my youngest daughter who brought Erwan. Come down here.
Hi.
Hi. This is Milena. Say hi.
Hi.
Want to be on the podcast?
No.
I can move over. You can sit with me. Nay, nay. Your dad's saying nay, nay. So now I got distracted. So when it comes to therapy, how do you know that you need to go to therapy? How do you know that you need to talk with somebody? Or if you're a couple, how do you know that it's important to have another perspective? I'll tell you how you know. If you find yourself not feeling 100% in the corners of your life, the love life, that is your love of self and your love of other people, if you find yourself keep having struggle in relationship, or that you are in a relationship and it's just like you're not clicking in the way that you want to, if you have yourself where you're not communicating with each other very well and you keep getting stuck but you really love each other. I have had so many couples over the years where they literally, the main problem that they have, that most of us have never learned how to communicate constructively. So one of the things that I do and a lot of other therapists do is they help us to reformat the way that we communicate with each other. And that's one thing that therapy does. So if in the area of your love life there continues to be struggles, like for instance, if you're single and you keep picking the wrong one, you might need therapy. You know, if there is a part of this where you just keep not making that happen, it's because there's a program there about it. So when you're looking at your health, if there's a part of it where you want a certain body and you're just not getting it and you keep sabotaging yourself, there's a belief system underlying it. And a lot of times, therapy can help look at the belief systems that we have with regard to our body. I was just listening to somebody today and they said something that I've said before, and I'm telling you, it's wildly important to get this. We take on all these programs about ourselves and in our body, and the amount of people at the moment who loathe their body, who don't love their body, who are judging their body, that is one of those things that therapists help with. Because when you don't like your body, you're literally talking to it and your body's listening. And so there is a part of it where you really want to be in a practice of learning to love your body. You know, many of us, myself included, I remember clearly as a kid, my mother, you know, not loving her body and judging my body, and her mother judging both of us. And so when we take on these programs around our body, it's a program. So therapy helps to change those programs. Here's a little bear visiting with me. So when it comes to the body, there's a lot of it that none of us were really taught how to be in our body in a healthy way. And so then you're looking at the other corner of your life, your success, your abundance. That takes on a whole nother thing because of people's issues around money, people's issues around work, people's issues around so many aspects of it. So how do you know that if maybe you might be needing some new constructive information about success and abundance? If you find yourself, I have money and then I don't, I have money and then I don't, or I don't know how to make money, I don't know the career that I want, I keep getting into something and then it just falls apart. You know, there's all these different programs that we get into. And again, their belief systems around money, their belief systems around work. I have worked with many people around the issue of just what to do with their work. Sometimes people think various things with regard to work. I mean, look at your own life. Are you doing what you want to be doing in your work? Are you happy with it? Are you making the kind of money that you want to be making? Look at the beliefs around it. All of it, every bit of all of this is about the beliefs. And then there are the other corner of your life, just the happiness by the fact that you were born. Which part was that, Mr. Newmont? Some people in their lives, it's like they're so focused on problems. They're so focused on the negative things. They're so stuck in a program that they literally have lost their way to be happy. And sometimes it can be that that lack of happiness is because a lot of the hard emotions are suppressed. You know, that simple part about just being happy. We came into these lives to experience joy, to experience happiness. And if there is a part of it where you're lacking in that, then there's a reason for it. And when you're going to a therapist, they're assisting you in finding that reason. So, one of the things that I wanted to do tonight is I wanted to go into some of the most common ways that people sabotage themselves and help to kind of speed up the process of, do you need to go to a therapist, or is this something that you can work on your own? So when you're looking at all of it, there's a balance of the life. There's those four corners, and then there's that keeping ourselves in a balance with all of it. So, as an example, one of the reasons why I go on that solitude trip is to keep myself in balance. I have a tendency to work a lot, and I end up working like most days during the week, though I do take time out here and there, but I don't take like a regular time out. So I keep myself in that balance by going on my solitude trip. I also keep myself in balance by having good constructive communication with people around me. I keep myself in balance by stopping and looking at what's going on in any given moment if there is a challenge that's going on, because if we don't have the ability to stop and look at it and literally find that way to process through it, then it's just going to keep rolling. And I don't want things rolling. So there is that part where we want to stop and look at what literally is going on. So when I'm working with clients, when I'm looking at their lives, when we're in the process of discussing things and they're telling me what's going on, it's an interesting thing how much of the time we get stuck in a habit of doing whatever the thing is that we're doing. And it gets to be our groove. It gets to be what's normal. Like people get into a habit of they get up, they do what they do to get themselves ready, maybe their kids ready, they go to work, the kid goes to school. There's all these habits that we do. Another habit that many people do, and this is one of those things that I'm going to say across the board, is one of the biggest sabotagers. People have a habit, and it didn't used to be, of scrolling. So when I'm off on this trip and there's no scrolling or very limited scrolling, normally this place that I went to in the Sequoias doesn't have cell phone. This time it did. So I really was paying attention to my habit of looking at the news. And so I really backed it up. I mean, I hardly looked at it at all. And it was a really good thing, because when you get out of that habit and you don't have that continual bombardment, then you're able to calm down your parasympathetic system. You're able to calm down the busyness in your mind. You're able to calm everything down to a point where you're grounded, centered, focused, and calm. And that's where we're most creative. That's where we're in ability to, like I say, when we're stepping back and we're looking at the challenges in our life, when you're in that calm state, not only are you able to look at it with logic, with reason, deduction, and doing all those things, but you're also able to tap into that higher part of you. So I have been working through my thing. I'm not going to get into the details of it because it's personal. And sometimes I just don't discuss my personal stuff with anybody unless it's the person that I'm dealing with or my own self. And sometimes I'll go to my person who is Alexandra, who channels Golden Arrow. So I'm having a big, big moment. That's my girl. And she's going to be the one that's coming up on the 22nd. So highly recommend going to see her and Nick channeling. So that's why we go to a therapist. It's like I can usually figure the things out myself because I am using my tools. I am doing that fear into power tool. I am looking at my timeline and I'm understanding why do I have what I have going on? And so as I'm on that trip, do I need a therapist? No, because I'm owning the tools that I'm looking at. So when you're looking at these habits, it's really important to be honest with yourself, to be authentic, and to look at what they're gaining you. Because it's always gaining you something, whether it's conscious or subconscious, unconscious. And so when you're able to step back from it and you're able to look at what is this gaining me? Sometimes it's I just simply don't want to be present. I want to be distracted. Sometimes it's simply what it is. It's just a habit. And it's just an unconscious, we just do it. So the invitation is to look at why you do whatever it is that you're doing, to take this opportunity to literally step back and look at what am I doing in my day-to-day life? And in those four corners of my life, if there's something that's not working for me, is it a habit? Is it something that I can look at, that I can address, and I can figure out on my own? Or is this the kind of thing that I need to go to a therapist for and get a new perspective, get a new information, get new tools to help work through whatever it is that's going on with you. So when I'm talking about going to different therapists, it's like, for instance, this person that works at our place who does her, Selena Culp. She's a hypnotherapist as well, and she's also a medical intuitive. So, like when people have some medical thing that they're dealing with, she used to work in emergency rooms. And again, why would you go to a therapist? So I was on the phone with one of my clients today that has been going to her as well. And she is that medical person. So I'm thinking that they were wanting to talk with her because they're having this surgery today, this procedure. And so they weren't able to talk with her, but they were able to connect with me. And why would you go to a therapist? Because having procedures done that are medical are scary. And so when you're going to somebody like Selena or to me, and or Nick does the same thing as well. When you are having a medical procedure and it's terrifying, because sometimes it is, it's very scary, we're able to help the person get a new perspective, help that person calm down. Maybe we direct them to, like I directed them to my website. I have a meditation that's good to calm down for something like that. So the reason why I'm making such a big stink about why would you go to a therapist is over the years, we've had so many people, not so many, but enough people that say, you know what, therapists are just as messed up as everybody else. Or we've had people say various things. And the truth is, and the proof is in the pudding, as it were, we have a lot of people. I was telling Nick today, because I'm a little slow in my practice, which I think I created because I told Nick I don't want to have to deal with people for a little bit, which means I went on my solitude and I kind of backed up out of things. But the the key part of it is I'm slow because a lot of my clients are dealing and managing their lives in a good way. Like on my way out from the trip, I called one of my clients and I said, "Hey, I haven't heard from you in a while," which I think is a good thing, which means I think that you're working through your stuff pretty well and you're using your tools. And they agreed. And, it's a nice thing to be able to step back and look at our clients because we have quite a few of them that when they first came in, they were hot messes. We've all been a hot mess in some way, shape, or form. But now they don't have to come in so often. They come in if there is an emergency. And so there's that part of it. It's like, it's to help all of us to reprogram all of this incredible programming we took on either from our parents or from TV or music or whatever the different programs are that we take on. It's so that we can bring the programs back to what our truth is and be in the present moment and be able to use new tools, new information to redirect ourselves, to realign ourselves. That thing about the programs that we take on is really incredible. And to be honest, I was debating to talk with you all about this, but I'm going to bring it up because I think it's important to understand how these programs happen. And actually, before I get into that, I want to just go into some of these notes that I had taken. And I want to kind of segue from that, and I'll go back to this controversial thing I want to discuss. But I did want to get into these notes. And so hold on, and I'll get into that part. Sometimes when we're working with people, there's that part about being angry at another person. And many people suppress their anger at another. They won't say what they're angry about because of various reasons. I don't want to make them angry. I don't want this or I don't want that. But if we're not being a mirror for the other person, then there's nothing that will change. Many of our clients have gotten divorced. They come to us after the divorce, but a lot of the reasons for people breaking up is they don't feel heard. They don't feel like the thing that is not working for them gets changed. They feel like they are just in a loop of this hurt, but you did it again. And then they did it again, or whatever the scenario is. So it's important to get when you're in whatever the relationship is, and there's all these different versions of a relationship. There's love, there's family, there's business, partnerships, all these things. When you're angry in a relationship, it's okay. We're allowed to be angry. It's what we do with the angry. It's like, for instance, I've told my daughters that I was angry with them, and in the same breath, I'd be, I love you. And this is what I'm angry about, so that I'm able to let them know this isn't working for me. And not that they do anything that horrible, but it's just like we all get angry with each other for various things. And the amount of times that people don't share with the person what they're angry about, it's like it's not fair to either party. It's like if somebody's angry with me and they're not sharing it, and I don't know, I don't have the opportunity to change it. So it's important in relationships to acknowledge when something happens that's not working, because there's always going to be something that doesn't work for ourselves. So we're allowed to be angry and we can still be in love when we're angry. So when you're communicating with that person, you're letting them know, look, I love you and I'm angry. And it's okay. What are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about the anger? A lot of times people, like for instance, getting back to that relationship business where my people that refer their couples to me, sometimes people don't want to come into a session because they think that they're going to get blamed. They're going to get shamed. They're going to be like, I'm doing it wrong, or whatever that is. And to be clear, when people come in, nobody's ever doing anything wrong. They're just doing what they're doing in an unconscious way. They're in their program, and it doesn't work for everybody. So when you're able to take out the part about being wrong or being bad or whatever, and you're able to just understand it's just not working for everybody. So how do we make it work? Then you're onto something. Then you can make the relationship better. But like, for instance, if somebody comes in and it's like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to be bad. Then the relationship can't get changed. So when you take out the blame, when you take out the shame and the guilt and all of that, and you understand you took on a program, so you're acting in the program, and the program's not working for both of you. If it's not working for your partner, the person you supposedly love, then it's not working. So across the board, when my clients learn how to let go of the defense and recognize their unconscious behavior, then they start changing those habits, and then they start changing where they're at. It's a process. And I wrote here, it's important. We have to love ourselves first. You come first. You can't put other people in front of you because it just doesn't work. You're the most important thing. So when you are owning that part of loving yourself, it's like sometimes I have hard conversations with people, and I have them because I love myself enough. I come first, and they're right there as well. So I have to love myself enough to have a conversation around something that's not working. So when you are loving yourself, you're also loving the other person. And in the anger and the constructive communication, you love each other enough to say, I don't want to do this like this. I don't want to be in the relationship like this. I want it to look like that. I want it to be whatever the thing is. And so when we're continually being mirrors for each other and we're loving ourselves and the other enough, that's where relationships will level up. That's where we find the new joy, the new openness, that next level to a relationship. Unfortunately, in the way that the belief systems are now, it's kind of the opposite that happens. Everybody's suppressing. I don't want to say anything. I'll just keep putting up with it. And by the time they arrive with me, it's like it's a disaster. And so then we have to unfurl all of this stuff and make it better. So when you are doing that with another person, it's coming from a place of love. You're not saying you're an ass, you did this, you did that. It's like, when you do this, this is how I feel. And it's not working for us. So you're giving them a new diagram, a new way of being with it, a new opportunity, a new habit. And when couples do this, when families do this, when business relationships do this, magic happens. So it's important to be with that. Anyway, I'm not going to go into all those notes because I want to get into the story. You're going to love this. I think you're going to love this. So let me finish looking at this. All right. Okay. So here's the other thing that I was debating whether I wanted to talk to you about. I'm going to have to do it. I was on the phone with my friend earlier and I was like, I don't know if I should talk about this. I guess I'll figure it out. And here I go. So here I am at this house. I'm by myself. And at the end of the day, last night, I just wanted to sit down and watch a stupid movie. I hardly ever just sit down by myself and watch what I call stupid movies. And why I say stupid movies is it doesn't have a lot of like redeeming value to it, I think. This one in particular, it's like spirit really loves me. You know, the universe loves me. They have me watch these things so that I can look at it from my perspective and bring it up. So I'm just going to say, I'm not going to say the actual name of the movie because I don't know if I can get into trouble with that. But I want you to understand why this was such a thing for me to watch. There were parts to it that were like amazing. And when I say amazing, not in a great way. So you all know that I'm 60 plus, I'm 61 and a half. So I've been around the block. You know, I have had my whole history, my childhood, my teenage years, my early 20s. And, you know, I'm not ignorant to things. And then I also have worked in rehab for many, many years. And people come into rehab with a lot that we have to unpack and sort through. And, you know, it's a process. So how do people get into rehab? How do people land there? A lot of times it's because of programming. A lot of times it's because of suppressed emotions. It's from being kids in the back seat of the parents' car who are alcoholics, drug addicts, whatever. So there's all these reasons why people get into addiction and what that looks like. So, in this movie that I was watching last night, it's this story of these three parents, and their kids are going off into kindergarten. And these three meet, and the little girls all become best friends. And so these parents become best friends. They become very good friends. And you see during the years, they're having these parties, they're enjoying, they're doing whatever. And then there comes this moment where the kids are about to graduate and they're having a prom. Now, I've worked with kids that have had big issues because of stuff with parties and proms. So I'm watching this movie, and there's a part of it where the parent finds out that the one girl, or that all three of them at a point, they make a sex pact that their first time is going to be on prom night. And so the one, it's a father, and he's this really buff, fit guy who's a softie who starts crying at any kind of emotional, like, Dad, I love you. Oh, he starts crying. The other one's a mom who is a single mom, and she's very attached to her daughter. And then the other one is this other couple, and their daughter is, no, it's a, that daughter is gay, and the father left because of alcoholism and hadn't been a part of her life. So the reason why I wanted to share this and talk about this is because these kids go off to experience prom. So the one girl doesn't have a boyfriend, but she tells her friend, I'll just grab this guy and I'll have him be my first so that we can do this together on the first night. So she finds this guy who they call the chef. Why do they call him the chef? Now, these are high school kids because he's really good at putting drugs into food, all kinds of drugs. And so during that night, he's giving her food laced with drugs. And at a point, she takes this one thing and her eyes do this whole cartoonish thing like, wow, what an experience. And it looks like she's having like this incredible, fabulous experience. They're drinking like crazy, they're doing these drugs, and they're making it all in this show like it's the greatest thing ever. The people that I've talked to, that I've been in rehab talking to, or in my office talking to, a lot of them, it wasn't the greatest night ever, by far. And so when kids are watching this on TV and they're seeing this kind of a program, it is literally where they're watching it and thinking, wow, I can't wait till prom. I'm going to get wasted. I'm going to do whatever. It's normalizing all of this behavior, and it's making it out to be where it is fun and it's not what I know it to be. Then there's another part of the show where the parents are all hunting these girls down because they want to stop this from happening. So it turns into this huge debacle, and they end up crashing a car, and I mean, it's a mess. But the point that I want to get to now, this, by the way, is on a channel that many people watch, and kids can watch this. So this next part, these parents all arrive at this party that these kids are at, and these two guys see them and they're like, you can't come into this party, you're adults. No, 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 we're kids, we're kids. No, you're adults. All right, in order to get into the party, they say one of you is going to have to do this method of drinking where they're using a funnel attached to a tube that's going to go not in the mouth, it's going to go somewhere else. And the buff dad is the chosen one to have this happen. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. And then they're saying, well, your daughter could be doing whatever, and you need to get to her. And the only way you're going to get to her is to have this happen in order to get into this party. So the mother, his friend, is the one that literally puts it in him in front of all these kids watching. This is what you're watching on TV. His kind of naked butt. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, are they kidding? And he's literally in that process, you're watching him have this thing happen, and all these kids are watching him. And on top of it, the daughter ends up in her high state looking out the window and sees her father in the middle of all these kids, naked, having this happen. On what planet is that ever a good idea? I mean, I was looking at this, and I guess for some people, this is now normal. This is now okay. And I was saying something to that friend of mine earlier, and I was saying, there were there were times that I did things I was mortified the next day. I don't need to go into the details of it, and I certainly am not that person anymore. But she was telling me that it's gotten to a point with people where that kind of thing, if they do something, they're not embarrassed the next day. They don't feel bad about what they've done the next day. It was an adventure. It's just what people do at this point. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, at what point did this become something like it's just what people do? That it's okay to put on TV that kids are high schoolers and this is all normal. This is all okay. And at the party, all these kids, it's like they're just having whatever the experience is. It's, I think, a lot of the programming that we have all taken on. And I can guarantee you, it's like people watch this, these kids are watching it, and tweens are watching this, and they're thinking, wow, that looks like a lot of fun. There's a lot of laughter, there's a lot of joking, there's a lot of unrealistic. Like, for instance, that girl that took all the drugs in the movie, she would have been passed out on a couch somewhere, not functioning like she was functioning in that show. So they're giving an unrealistic example of what's going on with that. So I'm watching this and I'm like, dang, you know what? I know what happens with these kids. I work with them. I've got many people who tell me stories, And there's, I hate to say this, but there's a lot of girls who are in high school that have been sexually molested because they go to these parties and they get drunk. I have people that I know these stories. And so when you're watching that on TV and it comes across like this is okay, this is good, this is fine, I want to just say, why do you go to a therapist? Is because the trauma that these people experience, the therapist has to undo the trauma. We have to literally help people work through the trauma that they have experienced in those kind of moments. So when I'm watching that on TV, I was like, oh my gosh, this is not the stories that everybody's telling me. This is not how it looks. But unfortunately, people take on a belief, oh, it's going to be fun. It's going to be festive. Sure, do these drugs, get wasted. You know, it's not at all accurate. And to normalize a parent having that kind of experience in front of all those kids, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Luckily, in the movie, it turned out pretty well as far as the final outcome. But I wanted to share that with you because my theme of the evening, why would we go to a therapist? That's the last reason I want people to go to a therapist, is to deal with that kind of trauma. And unfortunately, in my profession, I've had to address it too many times. I've had my own moments around it. So, parents, when you are having your kid watch whatever on TV, if it looks like that, if they're watching it, if you're watching it with them, like I used to watch certain things with my daughters and I would let them know that's not accurate. You don't want to do that. And then I would ask them, I would get them into critical thinking. What do you think about that? What do you think about that? And it's important for us to get our kids into that critical thinking mode and to be that parent that says, that's not okay. That's not something that's going to benefit you in your life at all. And it's not something that we want to normalize. That's not something that we want to, be like, oh, it's your prom, go do whatever. I'm telling you, I've had to put a lot of people back together from that. It's unfortunate. Let me see. Hi there, Mr. Johnny. Nice to have you in here. Planet Hollywood. Yeah, and that's the other thing. I have friends that are in the industry, and I think that there's a lot of us that are looking at this and we can see the manipulation. We can see the programming. We can see that part of it where it's like, they're putting it out there because they want to normalize it, because there are people who unfortunately want that to be what people are experiencing. That's another thing I was debating to talk about today, and I did talk about it at the campfire by myself, and I thought I would post it. But I think in these last few minutes, I want to say this. Why would people make a movie like that? It's important to get, there's many, 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 many people that are really good, integrity, character, morals. They want what's right and what's good and what's healthy. They want that thing that's going to be beneficial for people on the planet. And then there are also people that are out there that are not interested in your well being. They're not interested in you having a good time. They are sociopaths. They are destructive. And they can come in all shapes, all forms, all sizes. And there can be somebody that you have no idea. But when you are watching a movie like that and they are putting all of that stuff out there, absolutely there is an agenda. And this person that I was talking to that works in Hollywood, they are there's a lot of people that work in the industry that are out of business. And I told this person, I said, I think that people have, unfortunately and fortunately, had enough. We're tired of turning on the TV and seeing these things that are not in alignment with a healthy mental, spiritual, emotional life. And so parents, people in general are getting that when they watch certain things, they're in hypnosis and they're tired of all the subliminal programming of gore, of violence, of dark evil on a level. People have had enough. And so the other part of it is people are starting to understand that there are different ways that people worship, different entities, different, you know, gods that people worship. And there are people in the industry that worship something other than the light. They definitely, and it is proven, they worship the darkness. And so people are starting to look at all of that and they want something different. They want something light. They want something fun. They want something that their kids can watch and be like, hey, that's not a bad way to live. And so when you're looking at all of that, keep in mind habits. When you're watching TV, that can be a habit. Like Nick and I, when we're watching TV at night, we are very specific about what we're watching. And even at that, sometimes I can see manipulation in the shows, and it's like, nope, not buying that. You have to literally be like, erase, erase. It's not going in here and loitering. And so when you're looking at all of this, take that time to step back and look at what are the things that you watch. What is it doing for your consciousness? Because you're in hypnosis when you're watching it. And if you're in hypnosis and you're getting manipulated, you might not even have an awareness of it. So be very clear, especially commercials are a very big deal with that. So be very clear about what you're doing and what your kids are doing. And if you have been watching like a lot of news, challenge yourself to turn it off. Challenge yourself to, if you want, find other versions of news and be open-minded to what that looks like. If you've been listening to music that's angry and violent and derogatory, turn it off and find music that is soul supportive. Find something that brings out the lightness. It can be amazing in a week when you step back from, say, for instance, some of that social media that is not so healthy as well. When you're able to step back from that, step back from all of these things, challenge yourself for like a week and see how you feel on the other side of it. Get out in nature. Do constructive, fun things with your friends. Have a game night. Do things that make you laugh and giggle. If you're finding yourself in a dark space, it's okay. We all get into our dark spaces. But look at the habits that might have created some of that dark space. Okay? So this was Audrey as somewhat of a therapist tonight. I'm not exactly because it's all individual, but I want you to be very clear. You do it yourself. You do it in a group. You can do it just by watching these kind of shows. But however you change your consciousness, that is really important right now. Reprogramming ourselves, realigning ourselves is literally mandatory right now. So if you find yourself in fear, anger, if you find yourself feeling depressed, it's just a moment. Figure out what's causing it, look at the bottom line of it, and do the process to get yourself out of it. And it is now 7 o'clock. I have rattled on for an hour here, all by myself with my friends. Thank you guys for joining me. Makes me really happy to know who I'm talking with. And for those of you that I didn't see on here, thank you for watching. I love you all very much. I will have a guest on next week, and I look forward to seeing you then. Much love to you all. Okay? Have a good week and do those things I asked in there. And you can text in here or text me separately and let me know how it's going with you. Love you all. Bye. Good night.